I wanted to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement that's been going on. I wanted to give in my 2 cents because I do have a lot of people just asking for my input and opinion and starting discussions with me, so I wanted to put this out there. I do have a script that I wrote because I couldn't sleep one night. I wanted to create this video as a small portion of my contribution to the movement. I do have opinions, I do have beliefs, I do have personal stories that I have never shared publicly that I think will help aid in those looking to gain a better understanding. I urge you to please take the time to watch the full video because everything connects. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about what's going on, which means I have a lot to cover. On the days when I just feel like too exhausted to explain the full extent of racial injustice or like being seen as speaking on behalf of every Black person, I say that in quotations because there's no way I can speak on every Black person. There's such a range of Black people, like there's no way I can speak for the entire race, obviously. I'm posting this video to serve as a substitute to direct you towards my opinions in the absence of my present. You want to know what I think, this video is going to tell you what I think. I want to start off with saying that in the past, I have not spoken up nearly as much as I have now. Every time I saw racial injustice going on within the news or on social media, I didn't usually post about it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I didn't usually post about it because I kind of just thought, what is my one post, my measly 2,000 followers, gonna do to change anything outside of Instagram? I never thought that posting a graphic or an illustration, a picture with the hashtag, or a picture of a person who was murdered was gonna do anything. Now I realize that what it does is make people aware. A post helps to make what happened more prevalent. It helps to make more people aware. Some people might not follow others that are posting about racial injustice on their stories. They might not see that in their feed. Even if just me posting that one image, even if it gets to someone who might have not usually seen it, that is enough for me. And it just helps to make these events that keep happening remain at the surface level. I have realized that now. It makes the uncomfortable stick in your head over and over, so you're able to incite change and want to change something because you keep seeing it instead of just hitting snooze each time you see it. It helps some people to not continue to be numb to the situation. It helps some people to just wake up, like you posting and you raising awareness. I also want to go into this video with a little bit about myself because I know that is important in addressing these types of issues. I grew up in a suburb within South Florida. My dad, my grandparents, other family members would tell me that certain situations that I found myself in were racist, and I would always feel like they were exaggerating or projecting a certain prejudice belief upon themselves or just onto every situation in general unnecessarily. And that's like really hard for me to admit, knowing what I know now and knowing how I used to act. It's really hard for me to believe that I acted that way in front of my family, but I really never knew or understood that what I was experiencing was racism until I got to college. In college, I was faced with people from all over, people who never grew up with Black people, never had Black friends, who never went to school with Black people, who never worked at jobs with Black people in their hometowns, people whose parents encouraged and perpetuated racist beliefs in their households, people that believed what they saw in the racist media represented all Black people. I'm gonna share a few things that have been said to me during my time in college. You're the whitest Black girl I've ever met. You're pretty for a Black girl. You know, not white Black, but Black. There was one situation where 2 of my white friends had Black roommates and they had called one of their friends on the phone. We're talking about the situation because they weren't getting along at the time. I don't know if her friend knew that I was on speaker or not. I don't think she did, but she was on speaker and she blatantly said, "They're acting like such niggers." On the phone. That was her response to the situation. And there's so many more stories, even statements that were made to me in college outside of that, and I have never in my life experienced that firsthand before college. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never experienced, that was my first time experiencing blatant prejudice. Some people have literally told me to my face, "Oh, I thought you were white because you sounded like a white lady on the phone." Understand that if you're watching this video and you know that this statement came from you at one point, and I have talked to you after the fact, or I stood up for myself and explained to you why these statements can be offensive, I don't dislike you or hold any resentment towards you. Because I understand people were raised in different environments, people come from different places, and people literally are not trying to be malicious, like they literally just don't know, and that's how they were raised. So when I'm seeing all these things, I'm kind of, it's like cognitive dissonance. I'm kind of a push and pull because For some people, I know that they don't know better. For some people, I know that they're trying to learn to know better, and for some people I know that they don't want to know better. That's where the change starts. You have to want to, in your head, with your mindset, want to know better so that you can do better. And it's sad that I have to differentiate between those different types of people. That is very sad. That's an extra stressor in my life, small stressor, that Black people have to deal with all the time. Like minor things like that add stress to their lives based upon the social groups that they're in and the people that they hang around. For the people that I still talk to that have said those things to me or said anything that's prejudiced to me, I appreciate your apology. I realize how much a person can change within the matter of 4 years. So from start of college to now. I'm not angry with you. It's more so at the time or currently for some people that I'm seeing post a black square with like a heart and literally say nothing else about it, post nothing on their story, like don't talk about it in public, don't put on Facebook, nothing. That's the end of the conversation for them. It's more so like it's a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. Why you would ever think a certain like a prejudiced way, why you would think that those things are okay to say out loud so comfortably. It's one thing that I will always remember. People are so comfortable in their racism. Do you know the amount of Black people that have to literally watch what they say in the workplace, watch what they say or how they phrase things in front of their white friends, or monitor themselves? The majority of white people that I have been around do not do that. They say what they want, they say what they think, and they say what they feel. And like, I say what I want, I say what I think, and I say what I feel, but I know that I have to phrase things differently in certain situations depending on who I'm dealing with. That is not a thought for some people. In the midst of all of this, everyone is feeling the pressure. That shouldn't stop you from speaking up or speaking out based on your immediate social circle or your family. I'm trying to be more understanding and realizing that all people are different and people handle things a different way. All of that stuff is just like hard for me to understand. Overall, I'm a person who speaks up about things a lot. Overall, that's a part of my personality. If any of this makes you emotional, if any of this makes you feel, post. Listen, research, read a book, and most important, have those conversations with your family if that's all that you can do. If you can't donate, if you can't sign a petition, if you don't feel comfortable going on protest, the next time that you hear something that's prejudiced, defend Black people. If you do speak up, if you offend anyone, somebody's gonna be offended by this video, by the way that I'm phrasing things. If you offend anyone, don't be afraid to be corrected. Every day, somebody is commenting on other videos that I posted, correcting me. Sometimes it's constructive criticism. Sometimes I don't wanna hear it, but I work through it and see, why did that bother me? What can I change? I'm growing and I'm evolving from the criticism. If it's not constructive, then I will start a conversation with you. You have to believe in change to want to fight for it, so it's not just some social media trend or something in the news right now all the time, because when it does go away, if you still have the same underlying mindset, you're not doing anything to help. Racism runs deep. There are levels to this. It's not just police brutality, it's the makeup industry. When you go into Sephora and you see 4 shades and it's not a range for every skin tone that exists, imagine how that makes someone feel. When you wear a certain hairstyle in the workplace and you're told it's inappropriate, even though you come together clean, put together, looking fresh and neat at work, imagine how that feels just because you're wearing braids. Housing, getting jobs. I'm going to leave some resources below, but like I can't even cover the levels to racism. There are levels to this. I'm not here to discredit any events in history, but I personally remember learning more about the Holocaust within school systems and slavery and racism, and that's because the school systems are whitewashed. They put a certain narrative in history books so you believe things a certain way. That's why you have to go out and do your own research, and you have to go out and talk to people. Not many people question that or realize that. Throughout all of this, I have heard, well then if you don't like it here, why don't you move to another country? Why don't you go back to Africa? I am African American. I'm not Haitian, I'm not Jamaican, I'm not Caribbean. I am African American. That is my culture. I don't remember any of my grandparents, great-grandparents being from anywhere else than here, than the United States of America. Maybe they came from a different state, but they're from America. Racism is not just an American thing. It's very prevalent in America, but like racism is all throughout the world. There's racism in Africa too. If I go back to Africa, that's not going to end me having to deal with racism. That's not going to end me having to deal with the prejudice. Every time I speak about race, there's something I leave out. This is not something that you can understand through having one conversation. You need to be going out there and doing your research the same way you did research on how to do your makeup and how to curl your hair a certain way. Oh, I love this designer. Go do some research on Black culture. Try to understand different ways, the way that Black people are perceived. You could go out there and not be openly, blatantly racist, not shoot me, not do anything that's gonna hurt me physically. But if I walk past you, you have a stereotype in your head of how I am, how I speak, the things that I do, the things that I engage in. I was talking on the phone to one of my white friends earlier this week. She said something and it was like, no offense, if I saw somebody in a wife beater and baggy pants, I would be kind of scared. And I know that's bad, I would be kind of scared. And I just met that statement with confusion, and I corrected her. Wearing baggy pants and a wife beater does not equate to being Black. How you dress is directly based on what is appropriate and what is inappropriate for being in a certain space. And that can also change based on how you think or what you think is appropriate. Just how we don't all have the same style, we don't all have the same mindset of what we think is appropriate for every environment. It has nothing to do with race. You need to have a diverse group of friends. You need to hear personal stories and accounts of injustices that Black people have had to experience throughout their lifetime. Do things on an individual level to educate and dismantle the system that we're living in. The little babies right now, the little toddlers that you all know, your family members, cousins, blah, 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 they're gonna learn about this in school. Like when they're in high school, when they're in college, this 2020 is gonna be in history book. This whole movement that's happening, that's been happening, but like how it's happening on social media, I don't want to give a dumb example, but I think of it as a pimple. You know, when you first get a pimple, it starts under and it hurts, but it's bearable. You're like, okay, whatever. Then it starts growing and you're like, okay, it's there, I'm gonna put some tea tree oil, some acne cream, whatever. You're doing something to treat it, but you're just, okay, it's a pimple, can't do anything about it. And then it comes with a surface, it pops, it can infect other areas. Racism is something I had to deal with my whole life. I've been learning about this my whole life, but now seeing everything that's happening, it's bringing up new things for me. What are you open to? Can you deal with the variation of Black personalities and Black ways of being without judging or being scared? I want to encourage more people to be open. You don't like what's going on, you don't like what you're seeing, you want things to change, but to what extent? Activism can start on social media. What are you doing in your actual life? Off of Instagram, off of Facebook, off of Twitter. How far are you willing to go to see a change in real life? If protests make you feel uncertain, maybe you should go to a different type of protest. I went to a sit-in protest yesterday and it was such an amazing experience. It was organized so well. There were so many speakers of all different ages that spoke that I got to hear their stories. Some of them were similar to mine and some of them were different. It wasn't just chanting. Yes, that can do things too. Marching, chanting. There's power in numbers, but the sit-in, it was really nice to be able to talk to people. If a protest is not your thing, or you feel like they're dangerous, or you feel uncomfortable, go to a sit-in so that you can start a dialogue and hear people's stories and just talk to Black people that are dealing with this, that have been dealing with this. And if one's not happening in your town, then start one. Majority of people can go and create a graphic on Canva. Go create a graphic on Canva for a sit-in protest or a discussion panel, something. If nothing is happening around you, you can start that. You don't need a title. You don't need to be mayor. Start a sit-in protest or like start a discussion. You can do that on social media too. A lot of people have been saying that they don't want to go show out to protest because they are violent. I even saw somebody say they start out peacefully and then they turn violent. Literally any situation that you put yourself in can start out peacefully and then turn violent. If you've never been to a protest, I don't feel like you have the right to say that. You can go to a nightclub and the night can start out peacefully and then there can be a shooting at the end of the night. That can happen anywhere. But I also do understand that there's different zones of how to help. So if you don't want to protest, there's so many other things that you can do, and we all know that. Are you gonna do it? Yesterday at the sit-in protest that we did, we all took a 9-minute moment of silence. Where it was concrete. I mean, the people that I went with didn't bring a blanket, so we were on direct concrete. I remember sitting on my knees and I'm like, this, like, my knee hurts. Like, I had to switch knees and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my god, my knee hurts, like sitting on the concrete for this long. And then I started crying. I don't get super emotional like that, especially in public places around people, but I started crying because if my knee is hurting just kneeling on the concrete for 9 minutes and I switched legs, imagine what George Floyd had to deal with physically dying in that moment. It just put things in to a whole new perspective for me, and I was able to see the situation differently as well, and I started crying. It was a very powerful moment. The other day I had to look up the definition of a sit-in protest because I've never been to a protest before. I didn't know what that was, but I was still open to going and seeing and learning and talking to people. It allows you to get involved and speak to people that you wouldn't have normally talked to in your day-to-day life, so I thought that was good. This is about standing up to white family members and friends in white spaces when sly, sketchy, hostile, derogatory racial remarks are made. If literally that's all you can do is stand up to your family or your friends in white spaces, that will make a change. People have to want change for themselves. If it's something that you believe in, continue to correct and educate and let them see the love and the light in you when you talk about those things, instead of the hate when they talk about those same things. We all have stubborn family and stubborn friends. Keep speaking up for what you believe is right. Keep having those hard conversations. Keep having those draining conversations. Keep having those uncomfortable conversations. Speak on things that make you feel cold, so that one day in that space, it can become a space for you to feel warm and safe in talking about what you believe. I would love to see like all races coexist together. It would be nice to see every white person have all different types of black friends, not just the ones that are articulate or the ones that are pretty or the ones that are light-skinned or the ones that have good taste. I would love to see us all exist in spaces without awkwardness or guilt or uncomfortability, but the world is so far from reaching that reality right now. When I apply for a job, you're directed to my LinkedIn profile and you realize I am black. Some people actually see my application differently. I know that if I was able to just come in and have a conversation with the hiring manager or people within the company, they would have a different vision of me in relation to me being an employee within their workplace. That's really sad. Oftentimes I'm not even offered that opportunity because yes, you can go do that for a retail job. If you want to work in food, whatever, for salary position, that's not really seen as professional to go in and be like, can I talk to your manager very quick? Like that's not really how you can go about every entry-level position or getting hired. Sometimes it can be because I don't have the right amount of experience or because of COVID going on or no direct knowledge of the field that I would be in. The hard truth is the color of my skin also plays a role in that. In me getting hired in corporations where they don't have employees that are mostly people of color. Or sometimes I do feel hopeless and discouraged in regards to how I'm treated, but mostly just how I'm perceived. It could get really stressful and debilitating to feel like you have to constantly defend yourself with people, with grades that were given to me unfairly, with getting a job, with getting into a program, with guys, with dating, with the police, with how you wear your hair and what setting, just simply because you are black. And then when you do defend yourself, when you do speak up every single time, you get stereotyped as the angry black girl or confrontational. Let's stop reinforcing that narrative. Racism is something that has infiltrated our psyche ever since we were ever able to think to ourselves. Colorism, black on black discrimination, discrimination of hair types within the natural hair community is all stressors placed on top of already being racially discriminated against people outside of our race. I was natural for 3 years. Even when I permed my hair, I had people, oh my god, why did you perm your hair? Like, you want to be white, blah, blah, blah. No, I just like to change my hair a lot. You can look at my Instagram and see that. But I didn't realize how many different ways I question my own value and self-worth because of my skin color until recently. And for that, I sometimes feel at fault. I think of how many times I've come to my mom, my dad, and my grandparents when I brushed off racism in the past an exaggeration. I cannot believe that I ever did that. And everybody posting right now and talking about it does bring up past traumatic experiences and feelings of internalized racism. It's really nice to see the unity in this moment and all other minorities coming together to stick with us. Latinos for Black Lives Matter, Asians for Black Lives Matter. It is heartwarming. But what I really love about what's happening on social media right now regarding the Black Lives Matter movement is the amount of educational resources that are being shared. They've brought along authentic, genuine conversation that I've been able to have. Although I'm very well versed on the effects of racism and the levels of that racism has to it growing up as a black girl, black woman, through all of this, I'm also realizing that I still myself have things to learn about black culture that I didn't know. So I'm gonna make it a point to read more books and educate myself on my culture, since the system has prevailed somewhat in whitewashing that knowledge away from me. At 22, I'm kind of mad at myself for not knowing what I know now earlier, but I remember that I'm constantly evolving and making an effort. So instead of being hard on myself, I'm just going to continue to cherish my growth and my evolution as a person, because that is also something that gives me strength in doing so. I never want to be portrayed as that black girl who's not proud to be black, because I'm proud to be black. People of color really do have to work 10 times harder to achieve and acquire the same things as white people. Imagine what it feels like to feel undervalued and inadequate, and then on top of that, you're the one that has to pick yourself up because America as a whole does not fully support you being black. I don't have a lot of black friends either. I've been having conversations with friends that I have like a certain level of trust with. Even in those conversations, I can still see how they think. And I'm not judging, but I'm just really focusing on being open in this moment. I'm thankful that I can talk to all of my close friends about this, regardless of race. Please read the room. Please read the room. Sometimes I do not feel like talking about it. We shouldn't have to feel the pain, what's been happening for years, and then also have to explain it to you every single day or educate you on every single thing that comes along with racism. I appreciate you and I encourage you to continue to reach out to me and to continue to discuss. If you say something wrong, I will correct you. I'm not going to tend to you or coddle you because this is an uncomfortable situation right now for you. Just now started being uncomfortable for you. That's not a bad thing. That's how you grow. That's how you become different. That's how you evolve. Also understand sometimes it's exhausting me having to provide you with a metaphor or a story just so something gets through your head so you're able to have a different perspective. If you're white passing, you have white privilege in certain situations where you can appear white, understand what that means. My dad brought to my attention the fact that our president doesn't even try to cover up his blatant racism. He's been consistently and openly racist. Think about the multiple inflammatory tweets that he's tweeted provoking those against the movement. Think about how many Americans voted for him on top of that, for him to be in office right now. The ones that will smile in a black person's face when they're in public, and then behind the scenes they harbor racist beliefs. That is terrifying. This unrest is happening at the perfect time. It does make me wonder, like, if people are just having to sit with their negative thoughts because of quarantine. Would this all be happening if quarantine weren't a thing before this whole thing started happening on Instagram, all that stuff? It does make me wonder if this is a way for people to place their pent-up anger and negative energy, if they even care. But I hope it's real, and I'm starting to believe that it's real. I'm starting to believe this time it'll bring about change in laws and change in perceptions. I did want to discuss looting too. So as far as looting, I remain neutral. I think of it as shoplifting. If I wouldn't shoplift myself, which I've never shoplifted in my life, I have no strong opinions on looting because the lives that people have lost, the children that people have lost, that matters more. Also, like, majority of looting is not happening in residential areas. It's not happening at your local Publix or in your neighborhood. Nobody is breaking into your house. It's happening in cities, and it's happening to large corporations that can easily rebuild their companies. Majority of the capitalist companies will suffer no harm from this. I understand small-owned businesses are also being looted. Black-owned businesses are also being looted. But if you care about, like, people who have hustled their asses off to build their brand and, like, their companies and then had the money to start their storefront, I understand that those places are also being looted too. But if you care about looting so much, then why would you not donate to those people? Go find their Twitter, find their GoFundMe, and donate to them so they can rebuild their storefronts. Do not complain about looting. I saw something on Instagram too of saying if a small percentage of rioters looting discredits the whole movement, what does a small percentage of dirty cops do? I want to make it known that I do not think, oh my god, all police are bad, but I do think that there needs to be more training involved when it comes to that, and that's also something else that we can fight for. Making another point, when I say, like, when I talk about white people being prejudiced and you immediately think of yourself, that's concerning. If you immediately think of a family member, that's concerning. I encourage you to explore that, grow from that, and dig deep and figure out why you have those thoughts and feelings and stereotypes. I wanted to read something my grandfather posted on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook a lot, but this is something that I saw him post. If you are wondering how winter can come in spring, or if you are looking at your TV and asking yourself what's going on, here are a few tips. The old America is on its deathbed, now on life support. The nation is infected with the dual pandemics of coronavirus and racism, each deadly. Winter in America is a prediction in the form of an old song by Jill Scott-Heron. The theme is that of a dying nation with cities staggering on the coastline, burning like they are right now. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye is a 50-year-old song that speaks to the relentless dying of Black people and the environmental destruction of this planet still taking place today. Not just songs. Those of us who have lived the American nightmare of being undervalued, discriminated against, profiled, treated with extreme racism, victimized by false accusations, in many cases killed for being Black. These are the people who understand what's going on as they prepare for a long, hard winter in America. And that's just, like, crazy to me. But when I feel bipolar, when I feel like a child again for crying, I had to switch this over to my phone because my SD card ran out of space. When I feel like crying for a quick second because something small triggered me, I do wish things that could go back to normal. My normal as a Black woman in America involves day-to-day racism, and that's not normal. If you want peace, fight for peace in your own way. Do something different than you've done in the past. Challenge yourself. Encourage yourself to challenge yourself to make a change. Fear and uncomfortability is what I've learned, especially in this past year, doing a bunch of work on myself. Like, those emotions are not always bad. A lot of the time, those emotions are what incites change. It's what encourages you to change something. Sit with these feelings right now because we all feel the pressure. Feel the pressure. And then do something significant about it. That is what I have to say. To end out this video, I just wanted to say that it feels really good to be able to come on here and express my thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and concerns so you can just kind of see where I'm coming from at this time. I'm really glad to have this platform with the amount of subscribers that I do, the amount of people that come across my channel from all over the world, even if it's just a small number, like I said, to be able to express these feelings and create a space for these hard subjects here on my channel. Those of you who know me, you know that when I feel strongly about something, when I feel passionate about something, I always have to speak out, and it's usually always something that will end up on my channel. So I'm glad I'm placing this here on the internet for the world to see. Please comment down below to show your support or start a respectful dialogue with me or anyone else who has commented and watched this video. Can't speak today. I'm also going to be listing some resources in the description if you would like to know more. I'm going to be listing some petitions if you haven't signed those already. There's other things that you can do if you want to help, if you want to make sure the world is different for when your kids are born in the future. Because one thing that somebody said yesterday at the sit-in was, you were not born blue, I was born Black. There's so many things that you can do right now so that hopefully our kids will not have to deal with this. So yeah, I'm going to be listing some resources. I'm also going to be listing some extremely influential Black influencers and people on Instagram that I follow that post relevant information, different personalities, all that stuff if you're looking to diversify your Instagram feed. And just listing people and influencers and articles and all those different types of things that have helped me understand my own emotions during these times, during these tough times, during these hard times. I'm also gonna be creating a highlight on my Instagram, so I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description as well. In that highlight, I'm just gonna be oh my god, I'm out of breath. I'm just gonna be placing everything that's previously been on my stories on that highlight. So if you want to see what I've posted, because like I said, my thoughts and feelings, what I'm saying, what I'm sharing publicly, everything will be under that highlight on my Instagram. I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of Black people. I'm really proud of all the people out there fighting, listening, and educating. If anything, the one thing that you will never be able to take away from Black people is their resilience and their willingness to get back up every time they're beat down to the ground. But that is what I had to say, and thank you so much for watching.